All right, guys, to keep on time, we're going to get things started. So first and foremost, thank you so much. Welcome to our Spooky Halloween Treats workshop. My name is Caitlin Swope. I serve as the Director of Consumer Affairs with the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative. We work on behalf of the Beef Checkoff. So most of you are probably familiar or you have seen the Beef It's What's for Dinner brand before. So essentially that's who we're working on behalf of, beef farmers and ranchers. So I just wanted to kick off momentarily here with our mission. So really we just extend messaging within the Northeast. So we just want you to be aware that we work Maine to Virginia, which is where a majority of you guys would be tuning in from. We just want to kick things off with some ground rules for the workshop, just to make this experience as positive as it can be, as well as engaging. So with that, just an FYI that we are recording the workshop. Just for those who weren't able to tune in live, we want to make sure we share this with them throughout the week leading up to Halloween. Also, if you can, leave your camera on if you're able. We really want this to be interactive. But with that, please stay muted. We're going to have open Q&A at the end of the workshop. But as we go through, if you have any questions that pop up as Chrissy's walking through things, feel free to use the chat feature, and we'll be sure to field those questions to Chrissy during the workshop. And then before I kick it over, our goals for tonight is really to get you guys inspired to get creative with beef this Halloween. We know that this year looks different than typical. So we really just want to inspire you, maybe start a new meal tradition with your family this year and really gain a better understanding of beef's nutritional benefits. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to our featured speaker, Chrissy Carroll. So Chrissy is a registered dietitian and also a blogger over at Snacking and Sneakers. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chrissy.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I am super excited to be here tonight from my kitchen here to showcase some spooky beef-tastic recipes. So like Caitlin said, I am a registered dietitian. I am also a mom. I have a 5-year-old son, and I am all about the holidays. Anybody that knows me knows that I am super into pretty much every holiday. I love festive stuff. So hopefully you do too, and you can get some fun ideas out of this. One of the things that I love about making themed meals is that it gives your kids a way to get some good solid nutrition into their meal before they dig into the candy. Now, I am all about the candy. I am not going to tell you that, you know, to give out pencils or something on Halloween unless you really want to. But I love trick-or-treating as much as the next person. So if you are going ahead and doing that with your kiddos, great. The meals we're going to go over today are just a fun way of getting some nutrients in before they go ahead and dig into the candy. So we are going to be doing a cook-along style recipe together. We're going to make some yummy mummy pizzas. And then I'm going to demo a few other things, and then we'll also do a little dessert at the end. So to start, if you are joining me cook-along style, you're going to gather all of your ingredients that you need for the pizzas. So what you'll need for that, you'll need your pound of ground beef, you'll need your jar of pizza sauce, you'll need your sandwich thins or English muffin or tortilla, whatever you have on hand. You'll need some mozzarella string cheese and some sliced olives. So this is a really simple recipe because you only need a handful of ingredients here. So what we're going to do is get started with cooking our ground beef. So we're going to brown our ground beef. I'm going to step on back here, and we're going to go ahead and turn our pan onto medium. And just let that heat up for a second or two. When you can get the pan nice and hot before you put the ground beef in, it helps to get that nice actual browning on the beef, as opposed to sometimes if you just put it in the pan when it's still cool, it doesn't get necessarily those like nice brown crumbles. So that's one good tip, is to just heat it up ahead of time. Now I am using 90-10 ground beef for this recipe. if you're not familiar with the different types of ground beef, so like when you go to the store and you see 80-20 or 90-10 and you're wondering, you know, what does that actually mean? It's the percentage of fat that's in there. So 90-10 is going to be 90% lean and 10% fat, whereas 80-20 would be 20% fat. So when you can choose things like 90-10 or 93-7, you know, whatever your store carries, it's just a nice way of choosing a little bit of a leaner cut of meat to be able to go into your recipes. So I am going to go ahead and throw this in here. And I don't know if you can hear it from all the way over there, but you get that nice sizzle when you put it in. That's kind of what you want to hear there. And I'm going to go ahead and use a wooden spoonlight or a wooden, gosh, what are these things? I know we've got some chefs on here because this is not a spoon and not exactly a spatula. So you can contribute if you know, if Abby or Nicole or Liz, if you guys know what this is actually called. The wooden slanted thing is what we are going to use to go ahead and just break up the meat in the pan here.
Chrissy, Liz is saying, I'm with you on wooden slanted thing.
That's the professional name for this, actually. So if you're looking online, it's wooden slanted thing.
Nicole, I don't know what it's called, but it's a great tool.
So once I break that up a little, I'm just going to let it sit in the pan for a second there. We're going to brown our beef for about 8 minutes or so total. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer there. If you don't use a timer in your kitchen, it is one of the best things that you can start to implement. I used to never set it. I used to think, I'll just remember when to go ahead and take things off, or I'll remember when I'm supposed to pull something out of the oven. And as we all know, we get distracted and I never do. So it's a great tool to be able to use the timer in the kitchen. Once I break that up a little, I'm going to let it sit for a minute or two. Then I'll go ahead and I'll break it up a little bit more, kind of letting it sit in between again to get that nice browning on there. Now, one of the things I love about ground beef when it comes to family recipes, there's a couple of things I love. So one is that it's a great source of protein. So on average, 3 ounces of lean beef is going to provide about 25 grams of protein, which is amazing. We all know that protein is really helpful. It helps with satiety, so it helps you to feel full after you've eaten. For those of you that are maybe working on weight management or something along those lines, it helps with preserving muscle mass as you're on that journey. So protein is super important. And for any athletes in here, it's very important for muscle repair and recovery. For kids, I don't know, you guys can let me know in the chat box for those of you that have young kids. I don't know if anybody else deals with picky eaters. My son is definitely one of them, much to my dietitian demise. But for kids, ground beef can be a great way to get both protein and iron into their diets. So 2 really important nutrients, especially when they're young, to make sure that they're getting enough of. The other thing that's nice for kids is that ground beef is easier to chew than a lot of other meats. So if you have young kids, you know, toddlers or even, you know, baby age where they're starting to do complementary feeding, ground beef can be really easier meat for them to chew than maybe like, you know, a chunk of steak or something. So even as they get into 4-year-old, 5-year-old, kind of those entering school age years, ground meat is still a little bit easier for them to get down a lot of times. So it's definitely something that we use a lot in our house. I'm going to come back here and stir this around a little.
Julie says, I mean, my fur child likes beef. Does that count?
Yes, Julie's fur child. Oh, For those of you that are, you know, moms in here, you have families, you're cooking for them, do you have a favorite ground beef meal that you love to make at home for your kids? I'd love to know what they are in the chat box, both professionally and selfishly, just to give me some extra ideas for things that I can go ahead and make at home. So definitely share in the chat if you have any favorite ground beef recipes. I would love to hear them. So you just want to make sure that you're breaking this into crumbles here every so often, using the appropriately termed wooden slanty thingy to make sure that you're breaking it down so that when we put it on our pizzas, we have those nice crumbles and we're not just looking at like one kind of clump that formed together. So go ahead and keep doing that. How's everybody's looking that's cooking along? Is it coming along nicely there? My meat is getting nice and brown and I can't wait. Oh, good. I saw Jen's over in her video there. That's awesome. Oh, yeah. So what we're going to do once the meat is finished being brown, if you do have any extra fat in the pan, we're going to go ahead and drain that off. Now, one tip about draining beef is you don't just want to pour the fat into the sink. Sometimes people don't realize that. Any kind of fat, whether it's from meat that you've browned or whether there's like extra oil in your pan from something you've cooked, that it's not great for pipes because it can kind of solidify. So you're gonna want to drain it off a different way. And usually what I do is I'll just tilt the pan or the skillet a little bit and then just use a spoon to kind of scoop it, put it in a heat safe bowl, wait for it to cool down, and then I'll go ahead and get rid of it there. So that's one thing that you can try if you do have a little bit of extra fat in the pan there. The good thing about the leaner ground beefs is that you don't end up having as much extra on that end.
We're getting all sorts of great ground beef recipe ideas, Chrissy.
Oh, I want to hear them.
Stuffed peppers, grandma's meatloaf. A lot of people are talking about tacos, using lettuce as wraps. Nicole says she likes to season ground beef with chili powder, garlic, and then stuff it into honey nut squash.
That sounds super good, especially for fall. I love all of those ideas. I'm trying to think of some of the other ideas that I use pretty frequently. We do meatloaf, and we're going to do the little mini meatloaves today. I'm going to demo them for you to see. We do Korean ground beef bowls a lot. So where you're going to mix the ground beef with some soy sauce and some rice vinegar and a couple of other seasonings. And then I like to toss that with either white rice or cauliflower rice, whatever I'm in the mood for that day. So those come out really good. I like that a lot. And some broccoli too, we add in there. But yeah, lots of great ideas. Do I see beef stroganoff there too? Yes. Ooh, beef stroganoff is so good. That's total comfort food, right? I love beef stroganoff. It's so delicious. And then of course, burgers, right? Ground beef, amazing for burgers. I have a ton of burger recipes that I go to regularly. The most recent one that I did was a beef burger, and then it had apple butter and caramelized onions on it, and then some cheddar cheese. That was super delicious. So we are about approaching our time here for our ground beef. So I'm gonna check on mine. Looks good. So you can see here, nice and brown, ready to go, right? Ooh, mac and cheese with beef, I see there too from Mandy. That's an awesome idea. So once we've got our beef nice and brown like that, again, if there's any extra fat in the pan, you can go ahead and take a spoon and just drain that out of there. This is, again, pretty lean beef, so I don't have any in here to drain off, but if you do, go ahead and do that. And then what you'll do, you can turn the heat off at this point. You're just going to take your pizza sauce, okay, so about a 14-ounce can or jar of pizza sauce here, and you'll go ahead and just mix that right in. One of the cool things about canned or jarred tomato products, and we'll use it with the pizza sauce, and we'll also use it with the salsa that we're going to use in the quesadillas in a little bit. Canned tomato products have a phytonutrient called lycopene. That's actually really important for us. And cooked tomato products like pizza sauce or tomato sauce actually have higher amounts than the raw tomato itself. And lycopene is involved in a whole bunch of things that help promote health. So when you're doing your spaghetti nights or your pizza nights or things like that, just know that that's another benefit of utilizing a sauce like a tomato sauce or a pizza sauce, is that you get some of that lycopene in there. So everybody at this point should have some nice ground beef mixed with their pizza sauce. We are going to pause here for a second, and I want you to go ahead and preheat your broiler. I was telling Caitlin before we hopped on, so I have my oven has one of the broilers that's on the bottom. So some broilers are on the top, right? It's where it's close to the heat source. So some, if your heat source is on the top, your broiler is going to be in your regular part of your oven. For ovens where the heat source is on the bottom, often the broiler is in the bottom part of the oven. So it's almost like a drawer. A lot of times people just use it to store pans, but there is a broiler down there if you have an oven like mine. So we can go ahead and heat the broiler. I would heat it on low. If you find that your cheese is not getting melty, you can bump it up to high, but I think low is a good place to start. So I'll go ahead and turn that on. And we'll give that a second there while we kind of assemble our pizzas and get them ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to adjust my camera here so you can see what we're going to do. Awesome. So what we are going to do here is take that ground beef mixture that we just put together, make sure we mix it up real well with that pizza sauce. And we're just going to scoop a little bit on each of our sandwich thins. So these are, if you've never seen them before, sandwich thins, they're kind of like a really thin bun almost. But again, you can use English muffins here. You can use tortillas. If you use tortillas, I do recommend pre-baking them for a minute or two, just because it'll help crisp them up so it doesn't get soggy. But the sandwich thins and the English muffins hold up pretty well as is. So we're gonna go ahead and just scoop these on. Now we're getting kind of simple with our pizza toppings here because we're gonna make them mummy style. But outside of Halloween, what are some of y'all's favorite pizza toppings? Go ahead and write them in the chat.
I'm seeing sweet peppers, black olives, pepperoni, mushrooms.
I think all of those sound pretty delicious. I'm a big fan. It's like I know it's sacrilegious to some people for pizza, but I do love pineapple on my pizza, especially pineapple and onion. That's kind of one of my go-tos that I will eat often on a pizza. All right. So how's everybody doing? Do you have your meat and your tomato sauce mixture on your sandwich thins? Everybody doing good? Thumbs up. Yeah, all right. So next step is we are going to create just the little mummy layer here. So if you think of like a mummy wrapping, so we have some string cheese here, and all you're going to do is just pull it apart, you know, just like you are gonna eat it like a kid. And you're going to lay it on here in a little bit of like a crisscross pattern to create your mummy wrap. And this calls for 4 string cheese to go total across these. But if you love to get cheesy, you can go ahead and add some more on there. You can do it up however you like. I feel like garlic, cheese, and chocolate chips are the 3 ingredients you really measure from your heart, not necessarily what a recipe says. I don't know, what other ingredients do you guys just love that like when you see them, you're like, ah, that's not enough, I gotta put some more on there. You can go ahead and put them in the chat there. Everybody doing good? I'm a pretty slow cheese peeler here. I'm trying to rush, but.
Ooh, we got another good pizza topping submission, spinach and feta. That sounds delicious.
That sounds good. That sounds.
Thanks for sharing, Elizabeth. That sounds delicious.
I love unique pizza toppings. We did one a few weeks ago that was delicata squash on top of a pizza, and it was surprisingly very, very delicious. So once you've got all your cheese kind of peeled over here, you'll see that it, you know, looks like that. You can go ahead and take your sliced olives. Sorry if there's a little bit of a reflection here. I've got a light directly above me, but you can take your sliced olives and just put them up at the top. So it looks like little eyeballs here. Now, I'd love to hear for those of you that do have kids, or if you don't have kids, what your plans for Halloween are. I know this is a weird year. Are you going trick-or-treating? Are you doing something low-key at home? What's everybody planning? All right, so hopefully you can see, they look like little mummies, right? Pretty cool. So we are going to go ahead and take those and put them under the broiler just for a couple of minutes. It really doesn't take long. You just want to get it under there enough so that the cheese melts and that the bread gets just a little toasty on those spots that aren't filled there. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to put this in the bottom broiler without spilling everything.
Nicole shared that they're going to a trunk or treat hosted by their Girl Scout service unit, and then going real trick-or-treating followed by burgers.
Ooh, that sounds amazing. I like the burgers on that end. That's awesome. I'm going to set my timer here for 3 minutes. So depending on the type of broiler you have, so I have a gas stove, so the flame is pretty close to where it is. Things tend to go a little more quickly, but if you have an electric oven and you're broiling, it may take a couple minutes longer. So I'm just going to set my timer for 3 minutes. Let's see. So Elizabeth said a scarecrow contest. That is awesome. What is entailed in a scarecrow contest? Is it just like a town-wide thing where people select the best scarecrow? I've never heard of this, and I would like to know more. Trunk or treat at the U.S. Embassy in Panama. Whoa, fancy plans there. That's awesome. Townwide. That's so cool. Yeah, I think we're going to end up doing a little just trick-or-treating in our neighborhood here. The way that our houses are set up, it kind of looks like a little Christmas village almost. So there's a lot of houses kind of close together that we can go ahead and trick-or-treat in. And I think everybody's leaving candy like on a platter instead of in a bowl to dig into, and trying to kind of space out and everything. So it should be pretty fun. I'm excited for it. It sounds like you guys have a lot of awesome Halloween plans, which is great. we're just gonna let these yummy mummy pizzas go ahead and broil for a few minutes. And then when they're done, you all can eat while I continue showing you a few more things. We're going to take a look at some Halloween quesadillas. We are going to look at some mummy meatloaves. And then we're gonna do a little fun dessert, some banana ghosts. So yeah, I'm excited to keep showing you some fun Halloween stuff. This is awesome. Just keeping an eye on the comments here for a few minutes while we've got these broiling. Oh, a Halloween parade, that's so fun. I love all of like the festive activities are totally my thing. I will fully admit, I went trick-or-treating until I was 21 years old. I was that person in college, like taking the T, I went to school in Boston, so taking the T, the subway, out to some of the nice neighborhoods in the suburbs and then going trick-or-treating, and they definitely were like, how old are you that you are still out here? But I love it. I just love holiday stuff. It is so fun. Nicole, you didn't quit till you were 18. All right, good. I'm glad to know it's not just me. That actually makes me feel a lot better because I think I've told people that before and I got some strange looks. So, oh, good. All right, awesome. This is great. This is making me feel really good about my life choices right now. Oh, all right, I am gonna grab my oven mitt, get these out of here. So, grab another one here. So you can see that when the cheese is all melty and see if I can do this without dropping them, the olives are on there and they look like little mummies. Super fun, right? And it only takes a couple of minutes just to get them nice and browned and get that cheese all melty. So if you are making them alongside, I know there's a few people cooking along with me. I would love to see how they're coming out. Ooh, Jen, they look so good. That's awesome. Yeah, so cool. All right. So for those of you, if you're still cooking, if you're still broiling, go ahead, stick with it. It should only take a couple minutes to finish up. I am going to jump in here on how we make some quesadillas, some Halloween quesadillas. And another fun, easy recipe. What I love about these pizzas is that, 5 ingredients, throw things together, it's done really quick. The quesadillas are very, very similar. So you all got the recipe for the quesadillas in the initial email that came. So you have this to go ahead and try on your own. What it starts with, it's actually very similar. You would start with browning your ground beef, and then you would go ahead and mix in some corn. So you can use frozen corn, canned corn, whatever works for you, some black beans, and then some salsa. So again, with the salsa, the canned tomato products, jarred tomato products, it's a nice way of adding some extra phytonutrients to this. So, and then the corn and the beans add some extra fiber. Now, when we make the quesadillas, you can choose from 2 different types of tortillas. So you can use regular white tortillas, completely fine. Some people love the taste and texture of them. Or you can go ahead and use some whole wheat tortillas. So whole wheat tortillas are going to be obviously a whole grain. They're going to have a little bit of extra fiber. So really whatever you prefer as far as making these. Now, with these quesadillas, we're going to make them nice and spooky for Halloween. So I am going to set up a little station here to show you how we are going to do that. Now there's 2 different ways that you can go about making spooky shapes on these quesadillas. The first way is by cutting. I actually think that is the easier way to do it. You can also use cookie cutters. Now, if you are going to use cookie cutters, you want ones like this, metal ones with a relatively sharp backing, not plastic ones like this, as I have learned. So these ones do not work very well on a tortilla. They're great for, you know, cookies, but the metal ones work pretty well. So I am going to tilt my screen so I can show you the two different ways that we would do this. So if you are going to cut, I'll show you just like a jack-o'-lantern style right here. So we are going to just use a knife to cut out 2 triangles for the eyes. And then make our jack-o'-lantern mouth. Ta-da! So that's one way you can do it, just like that. You can also if you wanted to cut a ghost shape, you can do that too. So for that, you're just going to kind of round the top here and go down and then make like a little, you know, ghostly like figure. I don't know how to describe the bottom of that, like a little wavy. And when you cut them like this, so for the jack-o'-lanterns, we're gonna do a solid backing on it. But when you're cutting out the shapes, you do want 2 so that you can put them back to back like that when you're making your quesadilla. So this would be like my little ghost. And then the other one that you could do is using your cookie cutters here. And so you're just going to go ahead, you want to push it down really well and then peel it back so that you get these shapes. If you are like me and don't necessarily have Halloween ones on hand, this is actually a snowman head that flipped over, looks like Frankenstein. So dual purpose cookie cutters here. All right, so we've got a few options here. I'm going to set this aside and show you how we would actually make the quesadilla now. Sorry, y'all, I'm looking for my one pan. All right, so we've got a pan here, and what we're going to do is just spray this pan with a little bit of cooking spray. If you don't have cooking spray, you could just brush a little bit of olive oil on there too, either works. So you're gonna spray that with a little bit, and then you're going to put the bottom layer of your quesadilla shapes on there. And then all you need to do is take that beef mixture that we made with the corn and the beans and the salsa, and you'll just layer it on here. Now, for the little shapes, I would recommend using a little spoon to kind of layer it here so that you can get it nicely on there. If you are ever doing just cheese quesadillas, you can use the cookie cutters after. But for these types with our delicious ground beef here, it's best to do the cookie cutters beforehand, or the shapes beforehand, because trying to do them after proves to be pretty difficult. The filling just kind of like smushes out the sides. So it's a lot easier to go ahead and do them this way. All right, so once you've got those on there, you'll just put the tops of each one. Oh, you know what? I forgot our cheese. Silly Chrissy. So we definitely want some cheese up in our quesadillas here, right? I mean, it wouldn't be a quesadilla without some cheese in there. I have just a Mexican cheese blend here. You can use whatever you prefer. Ideally, you do want cheese on the bottom and the top there. So when you have the recipe in front of you and you are following it, you will see that. So you're gonna go ahead and put these on very nicely. And this is what you would put into the oven. And now I will show you what that looks like. So when it comes out, you've got these awesome quesadillas here. If you spray the tops, so one tip, spray the tops with a little bit of cooking spray before you pop them into the oven, and it helps them to crisp up really nicely. So super fun, right? Kids would love them, easy to make, awesome. What do you think? Would you guys make those? They're really easy. We've eaten them a couple of times in the last few weeks. They're super fun. So definitely a good option to make for Halloween. I have one more recipe, one more mealtime recipe that I want to show you guys. And these are for mini meatloaves, mini mummy meatloaves. So for these, you can use any meatloaf recipe that you have on hand. I love this version that I made, which is with mushrooms and onions. One of the reasons I like it is because if you have kids who maybe it's hard to get some extra veggies into their day, adding finely chopped mushrooms to ground beef is such a great way to add in some vegetables to their meal. And I swear they won't even notice it, which, like, you want to also serve vegetables as well. But if we can add extra things in to just regular dishes we're cooking, all the better. So even if you're not a huge mushroom fan, I just want to show you. This is just some finely chopped mushrooms and some onions. And so when this is mixed in to the ground beef, you really don't even notice it. It adds a nice moisture, a nice texture to the meat. So it's great for things like making meatloaf or making burgers or taco meat, any of those. So in this case, we've got our mushroom and beef meatloaves. This also has egg and some seasonings, a little bit of barbecue sauce, and then it has oats in it. So a lot of people think it's strange that I use oats in meatloaf, but I love it because it's a great way to get whole grains into the meatloaf instead of just using breadcrumbs. And I always have oats on hand, so it's nice for me to be able to use that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to pop a couple of these out and show you how we would make our little mummies. So we've got our 2 mini meatloaves there. The other part of this for our mummies is some prepared mashed potatoes. You can do store-bought, you can do homemade, whatever you prefer. I will say store-bought is a little bit easier because they tend to be very smooth. But if you make homemade, that's fine. Just make sure they're really well mashed, because we're gonna pipe them on. And if they're lumpy, the lumps get stuck when you're piping them on and it just becomes really hard. So I'm just using a standard gallon size bag here. If you have pastry bags, wonderful, but this will do in a pinch. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of our mashed potatoes in here. Okay. So you would fill this up with all your mashed potatoes. You kind of squeeze it to the end right there until it gets to the corner. And then you're just going to cut a little bit off the end of the bag. And then what you'll do is you'll just go ahead and kind of pipe this on like a mummy. And then our last step for these is just adding on 2 little peas here. That can be your eyeballs. You can use peas, you can use corn, you can use olives, you know, whatever you have on hand. And so we've got our little, well, that was not a good angle, our little mummy meatloaves there. So these are really fun. They also, if you want to make the meatloaves ahead of time, the little meatloaves freeze really well. So you could just toss them in a zip top bag. Then you could just do the mashed potatoes that night when you want to serve them to save some time. But yeah, you can freeze these and just pop them in the microwave. So yeah, super fun. All right. Last thing, and I know I'm a couple minutes, I'm trying to hurry up here because I'm a couple minutes over my time, but I'm gonna get your dessert in because as Nicole I know would say, you always need dessert. So I'm gonna get our dessert in. So we are going to make just some little banana ghosts. If you're cooking along with me, go ahead and get out your ingredients. You're going to need bananas, popsicle sticks, Greek yogurt, and mini chocolate chips. Let me grab those. All right. How's everybody doing? Everyone doing good? I hope so. This is so fun. So if you are going to make these, you're going to start with your banana and you're just going to peel it. Okay, speaking of bananas, while I am peeling this and cutting it, I need to know, what kind of bananas do you eat? Because I only like them when they're still a little bit green. Nobody tends to agree with me there. So go ahead and type in the chat and let me know what your style is. We're going to go ahead and peel these. And then we're just going to take this and cut it in half here. So you've got your 2 halves of a banana. So then what you'll do is you take your popsicle stick, go ahead, put that in there. Really simple, right? One of the things I really like about this dessert for Halloween is that it is a nice option. You get some fruit in, and then from the Greek yogurt, you also get some potassium and some calcium and vitamin D. So it's kind of a nice, like, healthier dessert option for the kids. You're gonna take your vanilla Greek yogurt and put it in a coffee mug like this. The reason for it is it makes it easy to dip the bananas in there. So versus putting it in a bowl where it's shallow, it can be a little bit tricky. You're gonna go ahead and put the Greek yogurt right in here. And then you're just going to dip your banana in. Sometimes because the Greek yogurt like sticks to it a lot, if you just pull it right out, the popsicle stick will pull right out. So if you take this like a spoon and just kind of help give it a little traction to get out of there, that can be really helpful. And so you'll just take that. And you're going to have a Greek yogurt covered banana here. And then what you'll do, really easy, once you've got the Greek yogurt on there, you're just going to take a couple mini chocolate chips and make your eyes and a little mouth. And then you will go ahead and just freeze these. So they're like little banana ghosts. And I'll show you what it looks like when they're all said and done. So you've got these fun banana ghosts here, again, covered in vanilla Greek yogurt with the little chocolate chips and just fun, easy Halloween dessert. So I hope this was helpful. If you're still cooking along, go ahead and make these. You're going to want to put them onto either a plate or a baking sheet that's covered with parchment paper, and then freeze them for a couple of hours, and then they'll be ready to eat. You can leave them in there overnight and everything too. If you prefer like a less frozen texture, just let them sit out for about 10 minutes before eating. That's fine. I kind of like them like this when they're fully frozen, but totally your call. So I would love to answer any questions that you have, anything about beef, nutrition questions, Halloween, holidays, what kind of bananas you like, all that good stuff. So you are welcome. I think at this point, if you want to unmute yourself and chat and ask questions, or Caitlin can keep reading some of the stuff in the chat box. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, you guys can unmute. There is one question in the chat. Elizabeth asked if you think dairy-free yogurt would work.
It does, yes. Yeah, I've made them before with dairy-free yogurt, so both work. If you can find a Greek-style dairy-free, it does tend to work a little bit better because it's thicker, so it coats it a little bit better, but even regular dairy-free yogurt will work. Yeah, and these, I know Liz, you said you wanted to add some nuts to these. Yeah, you can do lots of stuff. Like you could drizzle on kind of peanut butter in like a mummy pattern. You can also, if you wanted to get a little bit more indulgent, instead of the Greek yogurt, you can dip them in white chocolate. So lots of different ways you can customize these little banana ghosts.
I love it. Any other questions? You certainly can feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like. If not, I'm going to share with you all really quick here. And of course, we can continue to answer questions. But before you guys jump off, we wanted to let you know that we are following up this workshop with a social contest. So we'd love for you guys to head over to Facebook and Instagram. And we're kind of calling this the Ghostest with the Mostest contest. So we want you to take these learnings, these recipes that Chrissy has shared with us tonight, and make them and tag us on social media, as well as tagging Chrissy. And then we have hashtags listed there that you can use. And each post that you share will count as one entry to win a beef prize pack. So what we're looking to do is have posts posted by Sunday, November 1st. We figure basically between now and Halloween is when you'd be most likely to be creating these recipes and sharing them. So with that, this information was also sent out via email, and we'll be sure to follow up with it as well. And then just one last thing, we will follow up with an email with a post-event survey. I'll also drop the link to that in the chat if you guys want to just quickly take that while it's fresh on your mind. We also have swag boxes that we're going to send to you all. So the way that you're going to get those is by submitting your post-event survey. So that's where you'll just share, like I said, very brief feedback. And then you'll also drop your mailing address in there so that we can pop those in the mail to you within the next day or so that you get those ahead of Halloween. And then as a little plug, we have 2 workshops in the works surrounding holiday entertaining. The first one is November 11th, and then the second one is December 9th. So we really look forward and hope you guys come back to join that one.
Awesome. And I just want to jump on because I saw one question here that I wanted to answer before we hopped up about how would I estimate 3 ounces of beef? That's a great question because I had mentioned that 3 ounces of lean beef is about 25 grams of protein. So it's a good thing to remember. 3 to 4 ounces, depending on the size of your hand. So about the size of the palm of your hand is a good way to estimate 3 to 4 ounces of beef. Good question.
Chrissy, can you also, if you have, if not, I have them printed out. Do you have the prints of the recipes? Julie wants to screenshot them. We can also email them to you too, Julie, if that's easier.
Yeah, I don't have the nice version printed. I have my handwritten version from it, so I don't. But yeah, we'll definitely send them along.
Definitely. Oh, hold up the actual recipe you made. So I guess finished products.
Sure. What do we want? Which one? I can hold up the pizza.
Mummy says.
What was that?
Mummy.
The pizzas or meatloaf?
Good question.
I have the pizzas.
Yep, you good.
We good? Shall I just stand here Vanna Whiting this?
Yes, I think so. She says
a question here that I'll answer. So do you find with the meatballs that the oats keep everything together like breadcrumbs? Do you have to add anything additional? Yeah, so just like in a regular meatloaf recipe where you would generally use breadcrumbs, that's exactly the purpose of the oats there. So I do use an egg as well. If you don't use eggs, you can use like a little bit of applesauce or something like that to help bind too. But yes, the oats are gonna act just like the breadcrumbs do, help bind things together. And you can see like with the little meatloaves here, I'll pop one out that, you know, everything sticks together pretty nicely. It's not like they're falling apart or anything. So it's one of the reasons that they freeze really nicely too. Yeah, I use oats for a lot of things, but definitely for meatloaf. The reason that I started doing that actually, so when my son was born, he couldn't have dairy, soy, or eggs. And we found that a lot of breadcrumbs had either soy or dairy in them. So I started using oats, and then I just realized that I liked them, and we always had them on hand.
super practical.
Any other questions? This was so fun. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was such a fun evening. And I hope you guys will join. I'm going to join for the next one, the holiday entertaining, as one of you sitting back and watching. So I can't wait to sit in on that one.
Yes, we're so excited. And like we mentioned, we're recording this, so we'll definitely share out the link to the recording once we have that available. And really just encourage you guys to share it with friends and family, people who you think would find it beneficial and, you know, are looking for something fun to make for Halloween.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chrissy.
Yes, thank you.
See you, everybody.